We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts. Hi, I'm Jeff Hunt. Welcome to Storied San Francisco, a podcast all about the people and places that make this city unique. This is part 2 of our episode on Gumbo Social, the pop-up set to become a brick and mortar this spring on 3rd Street in the Bayview. We continue our chat with Mr. Gumbo himself, Dante Ball. If you want to get in on some delicious gumbo, po' boys, or seriously good breakfast sandwiches before the spot on 3rd Street opens, head to Sunset Mercantile any Sunday morning. Here's Dante.
The 90s is such an interesting time because teenagers and young adult in the same kind of era, right? Mm-hmm. Seeing the emergence of different types of music and, my community, a good amount of violence. Mm-hmm. What I recall back from that was good times, right? Although one of these years, I think the San Francisco had a super high murder rate. People were getting killed like a person a day. Wow. It was something insane, but through that, hardening my awareness, street smarts, as you'll say, and it did two things. One, it built, growing up in the hood, it built a hard shell. And what I mean by that is, I learned how to cap. I learned how to defend myself physically and mentally by having to, if I got to talk shit to somebody, I know how to interact. What I learned from that was not to take things personally.
Yep, that's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah,
I feel like.
So it toughened me.
It's taking your ego out.
Yeah. It toughened me. Yeah. That's the benefit of that. The negative part of that is if you don't understand how to release that hard shell when you're dealing with other people from other cultures, when you're dealing with people from other parts of the city, when you're dealing with people of the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever it is, relationships, you have to know how to soften yourself a little bit or humble yourself as well. And so I would say I had to learn that as an adult. Okay. How to, not necessarily social skills, but I needed to learn how to just tone it down a bit. Yeah. So, I knew in my mind, I'm coming from this place. This is a hard place to come from. I'm making it out of this place. So I had a little chip on my shoulder, a little arrogant, I would say, in the beginning. And I had to learn how to really mature, be humble. And that's why I was saying earlier that the time at Delphina helped because I had to learn that my shit stunk. Yeah. I had to learn that I didn't know anything. Right. It taught me how to see the world in a different light.
Was Delphina your first restaurant job? You called it an externship.
Yeah.
So how did it all come about?
Yeah, so it wasn't my first restaurant job. My first restaurant job was I worked at a senior center, a living assistance home in Burlingame. Okay. And that was a great experience because one of my first mentors, Mr. Ramos, he's the person that really, during high school, I took a class which is called a ROP class, which means a regional occupational program. Okay. What it was designed to do was to give high school students trade access.
To get in at places.
Yeah. The city, being the city, mistakenly removed those programs from high schools. Okay. So I don't know if those right? I don't know if those ROP classes still exist, but when I told the student academic counselor, Jody Tapas, who's just an amazing human in her own right, she searched for 3 weeks to find something culinary. And she's like, look, I can't find anything. And then something came up on her radar. She found, this is the days of, you got to remember, this is 1999. Okay. So internet is what it is. A lot of it's phone call. You got to know a guy.
We still had phone books back then.
Yeah. There was Nokia brick phones, no Instagram, no Twitter, and there was no social media. There was no social media. I think MySpace was just coming about.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So Jody found this thing for me, and she's like, I got it. She's like, this is the kicker. It's English as a second language. So you're going to be in a class with adults that don't know English. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I want to cook.
Yeah.
I want to cook. And little did I know, I needed those credits to graduate high school.
Okay.
Because my first year of high school, my old man wasn't around, right? My mom worked full time. Her boyfriend really didn't care, right, whether I went to school or not. You know, leave it up to him. Him and I would be drinking 40 ounces at 10 a.m. Like, I didn't really indulge in school for my first year.
Right.
And so I went to go play football.
At your school, or?
Yeah, at school.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I went to McAteer, which is now SOTA,
right.
School of the Arts. Went there, and then there's a day where you get the grades. And we all know that day's coming. Okay? You know if you made your grades or not.
Yeah, you have an idea usually.
Yeah. That was the day of reckoning for me.
Okay, that's your freshman year?
Yeah.
Okay.
My last name is Ball, so I'm like first
Drop
on the
the
list.
ball.
Yeah. Drop your shit and go.
Oh, man.
So embarrassing, man.
So now you're at the end of high school and you're getting this, what is it called? ROP?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how you ended up in Burlingame, or?
Yeah. I did the ROP classes my sophomore year and junior year of high school. And senior year, I was like, fuck that, I'm going to play football. So I left that alone. But Mr. Ramos was the instructor. He believed deeply in me and thought that, he's like, I see a lot of me in you. And, you know, again, just hearing his story, right? Immigrant, Philippines, you know, he was a banker. Him and his wife bought a house. They sell their house so he can go to culinary school. He goes to culinary school up in Napa, becomes this great chef.
Dang.
Cooked for presidents.
Yeah.
You know, he promises his wife that he's going to rebuy that house. They buy the same house they sold, right? Just an amazing story, but I learned a lot of values from him. Positive influence, the value of work, the value of being a man of your word, showing up somewhere, you know, the idea in the restaurant industry, show up early, leave late. And not necessarily, back then it was abuse.
Right.
But the DNA of it is, no, you show up early because that's your core as a human, right? You want to do a good job. You leave late because you want to do a good job. Has nothing to do with abusing the team. It's everything to do with you as an individual, and that's just a mindset.
It's coming from you versus coming at you.
Yeah,
from someone else saying you had to do this. It's like you do it to be of service, like we're talking
you
about.
Bust your tail, and if you bust your tail, you reap the rewards later.
Totally.
Which I think I'm reaping the rewards of hard work today.
I'll second that for sure. So was Burlingame the first time you had cooked outside of the home?
Yeah.
Okay.
The outside of,
you got a taste of it.
Doing some little things here and there and selling plates and, you know.
Okay, you did a little bit of that.
Did a little bit of that. Had a candy house every summer and, you know, would always find some business idea to do, car wash or whatever.
So you were always a little bit of an entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. The culinary is just my pathway into entrepreneurship.
Right, absolutely. That's the rail that you're on.
That's it. Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so then what happened after, food-wise, what happened after Burlingame and high school?
Yeah. So I left there, decided to go to culinary school, and then from there, I went to City College, and that was probably one of the best decisions of my life. I remember sitting in the academic office of the California Culinary Academy, which is no longer there.
The other CCA.
Yeah.
There's two of them.
Right.
Yeah.
You like go there and the guy's like, hey, well, Mrs. Ball, your son's great student. And she kind of laughs. She's like, no, he isn't. So
Dang, Mom.
My son barely graduated high school. Let's leave the antics alone. The truth is, you know, my son loves culinary. And she was like, well, what's the price? The guy's like, oh, yeah, it's going to be $60,000. Oh. She looks at the paper, looks at me, looks back at the paper, closed the little folder, manila folder it's in, slides it back to the guy in like such a G manner, taps on the folder and says, thank you. He's like, oh, what do you mean? You guys going to sign? She's like, no. She's like, my son's going to go to City College for free. And I'm like, Mom, no, we're going here. She's like, no, we're not. She's like, I thank you, but let's do the math on this. And this is before they lost their accreditation. She's like, you're saying that my son's going to make X? She's like, no, he's not. He's probably going to make $9 an hour.
Right.
No, thank you. And it was the best decision of my life because academically I wasn't strong. I wasn't a good writer. I sucked at reading. Like I needed I needed more whole skills. And so going to City College was the best decision ever.
Nice.
Because I was able to hone the math, the reading, all that stuff that I didn't think I needed. Right? I didn't think I
When
needed
you're that age, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I just want to cook.
Right.
Mr. Keys, the legendary Mr. Keys, would say, yeah, you can cook, but can you read a recipe? And he'd say, I'm going to do you one better. You're going to be a cook all your life? You're going to manage some people one day, right? You're going to be a worker bee? What are you going to do? That changed my tone to say, all right, I do need to work on these other things, at least tighten them up a little bit so I can keep elevating myself. So City College was a great decision.
Let's talk about Delphina. How'd that happen? Delphina, who just reopened, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't been in yet.
It's the space itself is a trip.
Yeah.
It looks completely different.
I hear. I've
It's
seen
beautiful.
Pictures. I've seen pictures.
Fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's virtually the same menu, same people running it. So
That wood burning oven's not there anymore, I hear.
yeah, that's too bad.
I got a fun story about that.
Okay.
Delphina happens. At the time in culinary school, I was in love with bread. Thought I wanted to be a baker.
Okay.
And Tartines was the place. Chad and Elizabeth, I was like, stalking those guys, hoping to try to get a meeting with them. And I can remember me and my girlfriend at the time, we went to Tartines and we got a pastry. I was like, you want to have dinner? We went next door, Delphina. I remember our server, who became a really good friend of mine, Adam. We pop in and didn't really plan to have dinner, but we sat at the counter.
Okay. Oh yeah, over on the right side.
Back in the day when you walked in, there was a counter, a little bar seating, counter seating on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And then as you go right, there was the counter at the
bar. That's what I thought you were talking about. Yeah. Okay. You went to
the other one. And we pop in. I'm just like looking around, like, damn, like everyone's kind of casual here, man. This is kind of cool. Chicken liver crostini with pickled red onions.
Yeah.
First bite.
Yep.
Normally, I'm not ordering chicken liver. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Order it. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Roasted quail with figs, soft polenta with fontina cheese and Vinsanto sauce with the fennel sausage. So I take a bite of the quail and I check with Adam. I'm like, hey, is the quail supposed to be red? I had no clue at this point. He's like, yeah, trust me, it's gonna be good. I take a bite. I like fucking fall out of the seat. And I'm like, Adam, could you ask the chef to come over? And Craig comes over. At this point, he's still kind of expoing. He's still still in the grind of being there every day and working the line. And I said, Chef, you don't know me, but I do my externship in a year and a half, and I would love to come work here for free. And he's like, sure, great.
Right there on the spot.
Yeah, shake his hand, and I come back a year and a half later, and like, Chef, do you remember me? He's like, yeah, I remember you. You sat at the counter with your girlfriend, right? Yeah, we'd love to have you. But the kicker in the push that I needed to really get in, another one of my mentors, Tanis Reinhertz, who was the front of the house director of City College.
Okay.
She actually passed on my birthday a couple of years ago. One of the best humans ever. She was the example of what amazing black women are. Half black, half Jewish, just the best fucking human.
Best of both worlds.
Man, just good people. Good people. I think about, when people leave the earth, I think that some energy in humans can't really be replaced. And
a void.
Yeah, she's one of those people.
Yeah.
I have no other example in my life to compare her to the great work that she's done.
Wow. She's with you though.
Yeah.
Some of that energy is still with you.
Yeah. She helped send me to France, man.
To cook over there, or?
City College does a trip. Mr. Stellman was the person that would do a trip to France every year with the students.
Was your trip over there before Delphina?
It was during.
During? Whoa, okay.
Yeah, so I did the externship, went to France, came back, had dinner there. So Miss Reinhardt and Annie worked together back in the day.
Okay.
I come to school one day and I'm like, Miss Reinhardt, why are you smiling so hard? She was like, oh, I got some good news for you. She's like, I think you'll be doing your externship at Delphina. I'm like, really? She was like, yeah. But the internship or externship, you needed to come 2 days a week. You needed to complete a certain amount of hours. I think it was 200 work hours.
Okay.
I got this from my uncle. In order to be successful at something, you need to act like you fucking work there. So what did I do? This is the luxury of being young and living with your mom. I went there Monday through Friday. Instead of going for 4 hours, I showed up when the cooks showed up. So I showed up at noon. I left at 10 every day, and I busted my hump. And when I left for France and came back, I came back and had dinner there with two of my friends. And the pizzeria had been being built, and people were doing R&D. Pieces were coming back and forth, and like Craig's like walking through the dining room, a hotel pan or something. I don't remember what it was, but he's like walking, and he stops and like walks back in reverse. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" I was like, "I got work." He's like, "Hey, can you come in?" I'm like, "Yeah." What do you want? He's like, "All right, I want you to help open the pizzeria." I was like, "Cool." You like walk back out, and like the rest is history. I told my job.
So that was a job?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would have worked there for free.
You were ready to, but he's like, no.
No, we're going to pay you.
Okay. So you opened the first Pizzeria Delfina. That was the first, am I right?
That's the first.
Okay. That's a big deal.
It is, man. I didn't realize how big of a deal it was going to be until it was. I can remember like the first, microbiower coming in for the first time and us having a not so great review. I think it was just 2-star. And chef's like, "Nah, we need 3-star." And so I remember coming in one day and it's like, "Oh, the whole menu's changed like overnight." I'm like, "Okay."
Dang.
And I knew like in that moment, I was like, "All right, don't say shit. Put your head down. Ask clarifying questions. Take really good notes. And be ready for the ride." And that's when we got that first review that was a 2-star and it didn't hit the marks that chef wanted to hit. Then I think things changed, and then it started to elevate from there.
Okay.
A good experience.
And you were part of that.
Yeah. I was a part of executing. I don't know if I was a part of any of the menu development, but I was definitely a part of the making sure that those things were executed and learning those lessons. Like I remember, heirloom tomatoes are in season and our early girls are in season, making something. And chef's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Oh, it's good." I'm like, "I don't fucking know." Like, I know this. I know I like these flavors. He's like, "All right, well, in order to understand the dish, you have to eat the whole thing." And I'm like, "Why?" So I like take 2 bites and I'm like in the weeds. I'm like, "Dude, I got mise en place to do. Let me put this in the back." And like comes back from the like an hour later, like comes back from the restaurant. And he's like looking around. He's like, "Chef, you need to eat the whole thing." And I'm like, "I'm in the weeds." He's like, "I don't give a fuck." He didn't say though. Craig's a pretty kind dude. He doesn't. That's not his energy.
Yeah.
But he's like, "No, you need to." He's like, "I don't care. Like, you need to eat the whole thing." And the significance of that is, in order to really understand something that you're making on a dish, you need to eat the whole thing. You need to experience what the diner is experiencing.
One bite is always different.
Yeah.
Like if people are handing out samples, it's always going to taste different than if you sat down and ate the whole thing. Always.
Right. And that's how I distinguish whether we do a 16-ounce bowl of gumbo versus a 24-ounce bowl of gumbo. I'm a big guy, but I don't eat a lot of food, so 16 ounce is fine for me. But my sons will crush a 24 ounce.
They got metabolism, that's why.
So yeah, so that was the thought there, but a lot of good lessons.
Let's hear about Gumbo.
Yeah.
And before we were rolling, I mentioned, I was like, I want to hear how you found Gumbo, or how Gumbo found you.
Yeah.
However it happened.
My first memory of Gumbo is, being 5 or 6, everyone coming together. It's Christmas, sausage, chicken, gumbo filet, just the smells of the house and seeing a bunch of seafood. This person, "Hey, we're waiting to get the shrimp because Uncle Larry or Tom or whoever is bringing it." People kind of communing together to get their portion of the gumbo, but also contributing to the pot. And I can remember Grandma, man, just on that cast iron skillet, man, cooking the roux real slow. "Back up. Man, you don't want none of this on you. You know, so my grandmother talks shit, man. I love it. Get your ass out of here. she's from the South, man.
Yeah.
The spirit of like talking about the food and why it was important to her, I can just remember those memories. And so that's the first time having a gumbo.
So when was it, and perhaps why? Like, what was the context of you deciding and doing what eventually became Gumbo Social? How'd that come about?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I wanted to find a dish that was controversial. And at this point in my entrepreneur journey, I'm thinking about like content and stuff like that. And it's like I need something that is going to be fun to talk about, controversial, and I need something we can create banter around. And the first...
Something with a story, would you say? Yeah.
And then...
Gumbo's got a story.
I would always do gumbo on Christmas. And, you know, folks would come over and it's like, oh, man, it's the best gumbo I ever had in my life. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool, whatever. But what I started doing is my best friend has a shellfish allergy, so it's so extreme for him. If he smells it, he starts to break out.
Oh, wow.
And so in order to get him to come to the house, I would need to cook the seafood separately. And so one day I was like, oh, cool, let's do king crab, let's do some lobster, let's do scallops, mussels. Let's just play. Why not? You know, someone's like, mussels and gumbo. It's like, well, whatever. Like, you don't have to put it in there, but why not? And so, you know, my friends come over, I'm sauteing up the seafood. I'm like literally taking orders like it's a restaurant. People are getting their own customized bowl of gumbo.
Nice.
And I can remember my friend Tercel, he like, this guy can eat. And he's like, dude, can I pay you for some of this to take home? I'm like, nah, you can't pay me. But that was the start of, okay, cool. And then there was the social piece. Like, everyone was there. We were having a good time. We were drinking. We were talking shit. We were talking about our goals for the next year. We were talking about things that happened this prior year. We were talking about people who we lost. We're talking about the kids we want to have. We're talking about all these things and bonding over some food that I made, which happened to be gumbo at the time. And I was like, dude, like, I think I'm like falling in love.
Yeah.
And my brother's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm falling in love with this gumbo, man. Like, I'm really feeling doing this. He's like, whatever. You always think about doing a concept or something. And then I start building it from there.
And how long ago was this?
This is 2017.
Okay.
Where I started playing with the concept, hosting people at the house and just kind of tweaking things here and there. 2018 is when it takes off. Okay. 2019, pop-ups, free events. And the first 2 years, it was free. I could just remember, you know, the first day we did it, you know, me and my brother, Hakeem, we got there 7 a.m., unloaded, set up, and I was super unprepared. And we did it, and we sold out of every ounce of whatever we had by noon.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow. So the next week, the breakfast sandwich.
Is that when it was born?
It was born the next week. The first thing I identified was, I was like, oh, there's no breakfast food. And now I think we started a culture around, you know, Salima's tortillas. You know, she does a breakfast burrito, which are phenomenal. Smoking D's, he does a breakfast thing now. So people are more breakfast offerings now. But my idea was, we need to have something here to feed the farmers. These guys are coming from Fresno. They're coming from Timbuktu. We need to have something available for them.
That's awesome.
That was the person I was thinking about when I created the breakfast sandwich. In the beginning, we were making them. We were putting some ham together, doing this and that. It got to the point, I can remember one Sunday morning, we were so busy, and we had like probably 20 breakfast sandwiches on order. And I was like, I had to like tell the crowd, like, hey guys, I know you guys have been waiting, but I have to stop cooking. I have to use the bathroom.
Right.
And
just real.
And at that moment, I felt like folks were like, yeah, we're we're here.
They had you.
We got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it come about that you even envisioned a brick and mortar?
I didn't want to do a restaurant.
Okay.
I never wanted this to be a restaurant. I always wanted this just to be a pop-up and something cool that I did. When I started doing the math, I was like, hey, we don't survive just on doing farmers markets. It's just cool if I'm doing a full-time job in this. Mm-hmm. But in order for the company to grow, we needed a retail space where we can constantly serve people and grow. Mm-hmm. And so an opportunity came up. The universe said it was time. And
you got to listen to the universe.
Yeah, a deal came through. We had an opportunity to seize a space, and we're working through that right now. And the goal is we're in the space now, but to get it where we need it to be, get it renovated and make it beautiful in here and start serving people.
And open those doors.
Yeah.
And just make people happy.
That's it.
I love it. Any final thoughts before we wrap?
Yeah. If folks having that opportunity to kiss their loved ones, do so as soon as you can. You never know when we won't be here, and you got any issues with those people, settle them. Life's too long to be mad at people. If you haven't had our gumbo, I urge folks to come out and find us and give us a try, give us a chance. And just on the record, I tell folks to eat more gumbo and, love, peace, and gumbo grease.
Hell yes. That was Dante Ball. Just a reminder to check out Gumbo Social at Sunset Mercantile every Sunday morning. Their brick and mortar spot on 3rd Street opens this spring, so follow them on social media for the exact date. We've got a surprise for you next week on Valentine's Day. Check back next Tuesday for episode 11. And special thanks to sound designer Kayla Anchel, who did great work on this episode and part 1. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Michelle Kilfeather does original photography for us. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 5th season, we have more than 200 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're able to, please rate and review the show. And drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, weird, and healthy. And we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.